Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnana Murtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, Stithi Prakarana, sections we follow is from the 36 onwards. And the topic is from the state of bondage to the state of liberation. That's the only topic in this world. Bondage to liberation. And every satsanga is a feast. You can enjoy the feast if you have fasted a little. But don't be too fast. Now with this. Vasishtha continued, just as ocean waves that have not yet arisen are nothing but the ocean. In the same way, all future developments in this world are of the nature of self alone. From the point of view of the self, nothing ever happens. Simple illustration is being given of what the Upanishad says, Purnamadaha Purnamidam. That's full, this is full. But the world seen through mind and senses, to every soul that world is totally different. With a vast stretch of time, beginningless, endless. And to everyone, the world is unique to everyone. No two souls have exactly the same world to face. No two thumbprints are exactly the same. But no matter how much all these differences, the reality behind all that is Brahman, pure consciousness. No matter how many waves and their different characteristics, the reality is the ocean that comes through every wave. From the point of view of the self, nothing ever happens. Happening belongs to the realm of mind. Every moment you are encountering happening. The reality is absolute being, ever existent. But led by mind, you are dwelling in a world where there is difference between 1 second, the next second, the third second. Every moment you have become different. You can't go backward. If you are attain certain age, 60, and you want to be 16, you can't go back. I'm explaining in a humorous way, but not only big time period, even something happened, your tea spilled over, and you say, well, let me start again, let me turn the time, just 15 minutes. That's impossible. So every moment, a change is occurring in you, in the world around you. And in that world, you are having something new that you didn't face before. But the reality, absolute reality, remains just the same. Absolute reality is beyond your mental process. Mental process has put you in a state of watching a cinema show. But while you watch the cinema show, screen remains untouched. Every moment the show is changing. But the screen, never. Who sustains all the show? Screen. And the screen remains the reality. All things simply pass on. Such is the nature of Brahman. And more surprisingly, that's you. You are Brahman. Nobody else. The purity, subtlety, and expansion of pure consciousness far surpasses the taintless expansion of the sky. We always give the simile of the sky. But the sky remains completely limited. It's just allegorical. Just like every experience of knowledge and insight is given as illumination. You are illumined. You didn't know before you were in dark, now you are in light. The darkness and light, that's again not to be confused with the real sun. You can't handle the real sun. The real sun, I'm not talking about the physical sun. But physical sun becomes symbolic. In other words, again reminding you, when we talk of Akasha, three types of Akasha, three types of sky. One is the physical sky, physical space. That's the basis of your all practical realities. All your business, all your activities, all your trips. Everything you do is in this physical space. But psychological space is totally different. Nothing to do with the physical space. And behind psychological space, there is pure spiritual space, pure awareness. These points have to be understood as you go on studying and meditating. You begin to understand the joy of physical space when the body begins to relax. Shavasana. And next type of space, when the mind begins to subside. Now, the type of expansion that you experience in that state cannot be described in the terms of physical space. It's totally different. It's samadhi experience. And then finally, when there is enlightenment, you are no longer gripped by mind in any way. Ignorance has been destroyed. That is same is God Himself, allegorically described as the sky of the sky. Absolute space. Therefore, all the divine being, Nilambuja Shyamala Komalangam, Rama describes as blue complexion like the blue sky. It is this pure self that gives rise to the illusion of names and forms. In an allegorical way, it is the sun that gives rise to all reflected suns. Each reflected sun has an autobiography. Some autobiographies are very elegant, some are very miserable. And I am giving you their biography. But all that goes on, but in the realm of illusion, nothing is happening. The sun is the reality, and that sun is absolutely untouched. How many reflections have gone through countless troubles? Sun level, same. And reflection in itself has no reality. If reflection was to bow down, Nama, neither me nor mine, then end of illusion. It is the self that becomes the essence of experience in every living being. Who is the experiencer? Who is the knower? The Upanishad puts a question. And you raise your hand, I can tell it. My eyes see, my ears hear. I am the knower. I am the actor. I am the seer. But then, there are situations when your eyes are open. And someone asks you, did you see someone passing by? So, no. Why, are you blind? No. I've checked my eyes, they are very good. But then why didn't you see? Oh, my mind wasn't there. So now you come to an understanding The senses do not bring about the experience. Mind must operate in order to make the senses effective. Who is the perceiver? First answer, senses, but not. Senses have become perceiver because of mind. And mind becomes thinker, feeler, etc. because of pure consciousness behind it. Even in mind, you make a little distinction. Intellect. Mind does all types of evaluations, but intellect gives a decisive evaluation. And even that intellect does so because of the absolute self shining behind it. So ultimately, who is the experiencer? No matter whatever is your experience, you are just taking a little pickle on your tongue. Who tickle you to taste the pickle? The divine within, the same that is behind the entire universe. It is that self that becomes the luminous sun and moon. It is the reality behind the objects of the senses. All that you experience is nothing but the divine self. This self neither rises nor sets, neither comes nor goes, is neither here nor there, implying he is everywhere. It is the ever-present reality. The self, as it were, becomes identified with its own reflection in ignorance, implying, giving simple way to understand. A reflected sun, imagine if it were to view itself as a reality, if it were alive. Then the reflected sun sees it is illuminating the jar, and fishes and frogs facing so many situations within the jar. The reflected sun may hold on to all these illusory notions. But what is that reflected sun? At every moment, the reflected sun is the absolute sun. That ignorance has to be broken. That water business that creates the illusion, that water is avidya, ignorance. So led by ignorance, the self becomes deviated from the awareness of its boundless freedom. Consequently, with the intensification of ego sense, the self enters into the illusory role of incarnating soul. Each reflected sun has a a distinctive quality. No two reflected suns can be described as exactly the same. No two souls are described exactly the same. What makes this difference? Ahamkar, ego sense. That's the worst car to be. And as long as there is ahamkar, soul is trapped in the world of time and space. There will be repeated cycle of birth and death. Led by ahamkar, the soul that is led by ahamkar is the jiva, individual soul, that is ever driven by the erroneous thoughts. This is desirable, this is not desirable. I must attain this, I must negate that. Your mind is constantly planning. You must realize this is a study being done from very advanced level. Its message is not that since you are Brahman, you simply stop doing everything. You just lay yourself down and just do nothing. I am Brahman, I am Brahman. That's not the message. The message is, as you begin to understand, a change must occur in your lifestyle, in your psychological state of mind, in your relationships, in the way you handle your karma actions. A change must occur. No matter how things move, you should not become overcome by despair. No matter how challenging situations, you should not be struck by sorrow or misery. I'm just giving very advanced highlights. And when that movement starts within you, you begin to wake up, as it were, from a narrow jar and a limited water within it, to an awareness that you are out of your jar. You are not confined to your own body and mind. You are that divine sun. And then look your sideways. All souls are the same. Then simple mathematics. If I am that, then I am all souls. Simple mathematics. Ahame Vedam Sarvam. I am all this. And again, all this doesn't really mean you are pointing to many. All means full, infinity. It is the self that becomes the sky. And a moment. It is the self that becomes the sky and allows the seed of karma to germinate. It is the self that becomes the water, that nourishes the sprout as it grows into the tree of the world process. It is the self that sustains its roots by becoming the earth. It is the self that becomes the shining form of the sun through the fire element. In this way, gives various expression to the world tree composed of the 5 elements. Very concentrated writing, but let me give you more detailed understanding. If you follow Kundalini Yoga, the study becomes simple. Your experience, if your Kundalini is locked up at your Mooladhara, basal center, while I'm describing in a more mathematical way. In nature, it is not so precise. All are at once. In other words, even though your Kundalini may operate from your Ajna Chakra, and yet you are nothing but locked up at your basal center. Use the 2 terms, Stithi and Avastha. So, as long as you have not created a special dynamic movement of Kundalini, you stay locked up in lower centers, even though your experience may be at your throat, even at your Ajna Chakra, something may start pinching your center between the eyebrows, all your forehead may get shrunk up, and this may become like a triangle. Like a trishul. This doesn't mean that Kundalini has arisen there. Kundalini is creating waves, but actual Kundalini is there in the lower center. Same applies if Kundalini is at your higher level, yet your experience can go back to lowest. But then what happens? That experience does not draw you back. That experience, you simply experience it just like a swimmer swimming experiences the rush of waters in different ways. In other words, you are not affected. Coming back now, the real topic here is elements. If your Kundalini is locked up at Mooladhara center, the element that to which you are relating is earth element. And what does earth element mean? It has 2 meanings. One is lower type of meaning. Earth, just like you see the earth around you. Earth means you are so pulled by mundane values that you can't lift yourself. Each element has 2 implications, positive and negative. If you have awakened Kundalini, earth element means you have a solid ground to stand upon. You are not in a slippery stage of sadhana. But if Kundalini has not been awakened, the same earth element is now playing a negative role. It has caused inertia in you. You have opportunity to do action, but inertia has taken over. Same applies. Now come to the next level called Vasishtha. So water element. Water element in a negative way implies moha mamata, a sense of sentimental affection. It just flows like spray. And creates much trouble also. It disturbs the vision of your eyes, with little spray of water in it. Moha drishti, moha-based vision is very tricky vision. Meat eaters look at the animal they are going to eat with great love. They give food to the animal singing a song so that the food will be nutritious. I'm giving a display of moha. Moha-based relationship appears very wonderful, but is extremely harmful and deceptive. So one has to understand the difference. The difference can be understood not by intellect, but your practical sadhana, day by day, in an integral way. As you do that, then you begin to separate moha-based mind to a mind that is now moving towards godly love. Same water element, free in a positive way, implies you are moving towards, flowing towards God. Similarly, fire element, when Kundalini has awakened the Manipur chakra, when it's awakened, that's positive. But if it's not awakened, the Kundalini, your Manipur chakra becomes the basis for your temper, for your anger, for being fiery. But if you have awakened it, the fire of spiritual strength, Kriya Shakti, your act, the energy behind your self-effort becomes fiery, powerful. Come to Anahat chakra. That's air element relates to Anahat chakra at your heart center. If not awakened, your sentiments act like wind blowing, gusty winds. Air is not easy to control. And that type of sentiment dominates you as long as you have not awakened the Anahat chakra. When well awakened, the same wind and storm now presents itself as simple Sheetal Manda Sugandha, cool, gentle, fragrant, giver of life. Can't live without it even for a moment. I'm joking. You can live a few minutes, that's okay. And after the air element comes Akasha element, space, throat center, Vishuddhi chakra. Now if you are not awakened it, the negative way the element operates, it will make you spaced out. Positive makes you expand like the Akasha, untouched by the limitations of the world. Opens the window to joyousness. And Agnya chakra, that's the transcends all the elements. So this is the description. All these elements, they are emanating from Brahman. Brahman is the reality. It is the self that unfolds itself in the blossoms of spring. Also, the self that assumes the role of the fierce summer sun, causing blossoms to wither. Same source that creates the whole tree full of blossoms and full of big fruits. The same source brings them all down and the tree looks completely barren until the next season. This allegorical description too, that all things that are happening to your mind, things that appear negative, things that appear positive, things that appear mixed up, all that is happening is on the basis of pure consciousness. First point, realize whatever is happening, it is an act of your awareness. If you don't have awareness, then there is nothing you can experience. So there is always awareness behind all your experiences. Now turn your attention to that awareness. That awareness remains absolutely intact. All your experiences are like shadows, reflections. Your awareness is like the big lake, calm. You're looking into the same lake and you forget about the lake and you are looking at the birds fighting in the air on trees. They're not looking up. The trees are there reflecting in the lake. So though your eyes are set on the lake, you are identified with the bird, tortured by another creature. I'm joking, but try to understand the point. The awareness itself allows all this to happen. But it's calm, untouched, unaffected. If there were anything other than the self, there could have been the possibility of desire in the self. Simple point, there is nothing other than the self. Therefore, when you have attained enlightenment, you can hold no desire. You become desireless. Because what is there to desire? If you are the ocean, why should you desire rivers or drainage waters? But since the self alone exists, how can there have been any desire for creation? Without desire, the self could not have had the inclination to create the world. In fact, what's leading you to understand that all the idea that the mind has about creation, sustenance of creation and destruction, dissolution of creation, what's known as Srishti, Palan, Sanghar. All these are in the realm of Maya, illusion. Just like to a deer, mirage becomes such a source of temptation. Not only deer, but there are people who, thirsty people in a desert, look from a distance, even to human eyes, shimmering water. Unless someone tells you it is mirage, you will be drawn to it. Even if you were to race in any direction with the greatest possible speed, you would not be able to discover the means to attain supreme bliss, because it exists within your very heart. Now, simple point is given. Everyone becomes so involved with the idea that God realization is the goal. Where should I go where I can have a quick darshan of God? Now, Google opens up many doors. And mind begins to develop a kind of quantitative evaluation of your Ishwar darshan. You went to have darshan of God in Banaras, Kashi. Went to Prayag, have a little more darshan. Went to Rameshwaram, you have more darshan. I'm talking only within India, but then think of the whole world. So many sacred places. And the idea that you can go somewhere, million miles away, that's one way of description. Another, how long will it take for me to meet God? Human mind calculates, since there are lots of negative karmas, it may take few more lives. But all the while, you have locked up God, your God, the real God, right in the chambers of your heart. All the time God is with you in simple terms. Closer than anything that you have in your personality. And that type of spiritual maturity must develop. You can, and having developed it, if you still want to run around, you can do that. It becomes a sport. You are not deluded. You are seeing the same God in different ways and enjoying that spiritual flavor. But the profound experience, God is in your own heart. And the best of pilgrimage center is just wherever you are. And the climax of pilgrimage center is your own body. Your own body mindset. Deho devalayo proktu. Your body mindset is a devalaya, is a temple. Thus knowing, you should not externalize your mind. Knowing that God is your innermost center. Do not let your mind go into the big illusion of time and space. Rather, you should renounce the ego sense. In other words, focus your attention in bringing about humility in your personality. When you say renounce your ego sense, it doesn't mean that say, oh yes, from tomorrow no more ego sense. Renounce your ego sense is a whole growing movement. You can't turn to a tree and say, blossom, my command. Blossoming has to come through a spontaneous movement. But the goal has to be kept in view. Your goal is to allow inflated ego to lose its inflation. It should sit on your head like a little butterfly, not like a big, massive drum. I am not the performer of action. I am not this body, personality of mind-body complex. Whatever the mind does, that becomes the karma for the individual. Whatever is not performed by the mind, that cannot bind the individual. Bondage and release, they are not dependent on your body's functions. You can do many things with your body, but that doesn't cause karma. Karma comes through your mind. The sense of I am the actor, I am the enjoyer. Now study the mind implies gain insight into the vasanas. Because the mind is not simply the conscious mind. What's behind your conscious mind? Behind your conscious mind is vasanas, subtle desires. And behind those subtle desires are unconscious impressions, samskaras. But if you attend on vasanas, you forget about samskaras. Samskaras will, if you purify your vasana and attain enlightenment, then all your samskaras simply vanish. Once these vasanas are removed by knowledge, one becomes free from karmas. Then whether he engages himself in action or remains inactive, he is ever liberated. For enlightened one, no matter whatever is the lifestyle of his life, you may be active, or you may seem to be inactive. Sages like Shankaracharya was very active, though he went on saying the whole world is illusion. But in practice, not a single hour was an illusion. He handled his energy with tremendous precision. Writer, poet, jnana yajna, powerful, disseminating knowledge. So, enlightened one, doing all this, his inner experience, nothing. Brahman alone is. And there are sages who stayed in one place as if doing nothing, just radiating peace. So no matter whatever is your external style, enlightenment continues to be your glorious attainment. The vasanas of the mind alone hold the key to bondage and release for the individual soul. You need to therefore understand the vasanas. Vasanas, how are they formed? Experiences in your daily life, they leave their sediments. If you have pleasure, pain, whatever you are experiencing, they leave their impressions in your subconscious. Impressions with a will. If you have some experience that seems so pleasant to you, you are traveling and you see some setup of things and inspired you. And what happens? With that, you drew the picture of that which inspired you in your unconscious with a will. May I come back again? May I have the same joy? Hold it in your mind. So every samskara that you are holding of illusion is taking a portion of your energy, will. I'm giving you psychological understanding of suppressed desires. Desires that have become so in the form of impressions. All negative impressions, though they seem quiet, but they have burdened they have weakened your willpower. Through the process of enlightenment, you do not let any desire stay suppressed, squeezed in your subconscious or unconscious. But this is not a simple matter. It automatically happens as you do sadhana. Your mind opens up. Your negative view of pleasure comes to your insight. This is not real. Let me develop vairagya. And when any illusory desire dissolves, now you get a special strength from within yourself. Simple way of saying, impure vasana creates bondage. Pure vasana leads you to liberation. Impure vasana is like cloud that is becoming more and more intense, dense. Pure vasana, cloud that is allowing the sun to pass. More and more becoming shimmering, fleecy, melting away. Just as a mighty elephant cannot drown himself in a pitfall of water, in the same way sage cannot be drowned in the waters of illusion. Now that's what happens, we become an elephant. That's why scriptures talk so much about elephant. Gajagamini movement. Gajagami. Elephant strength. When that awareness comes, that you are not the body, you are not the mind. You relate yourself to God, you are divine, you are ultimately Brahman. And that movement starts. You don't see the world as something that is going to drown you. The whole world becomes smaller and smaller. It's like a pit full of, it becomes a pitful spot. And for an elephant to be afraid of pitfalls of water, that's impossible. Be enlightened, be an elephant. And turn the whole world into a pit full of water. This is the message. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukam Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyama Mritar Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.